So today we will be talking about statistics and probability. So what is statistics يعني بشكل عام? What do we mean by statistics? Statistics is when you have some data, all right? It could be any type of data. You have a table, and then you have data, all right? So let's say we have height, for example, and weight. And then, so يعني we say like someone's 150 centimeters and he's 50 kg, very thin, and then 180 and he's 90 kg, and 250 height مثلا طويل عمود and he's 150 kg, and so on and so forth. So you have data basically, all right? Statistics is basically studying the type of data that you have and then being able to apply it so that you understand what this data represents, and also you can foresee or predict how other types of data that are similar to this can be applied, so that you know, and for example, if I tell you now someone's height is 700, for example, يعني, how much does he weigh, for example? And you can use statistics to basically gather as much data as you can and then make a prediction or estimation using mathematical tools عشان تطلعون هالvalue. All right, this is just generally what statistics is. In our case, when we're talking about statistics, there are two types of value or data that we need to look at. So two types of data. There is discrete and there is continuous. زين. What is the difference between these two? Discrete يوم عندكم شيء تقدرون تعدونه. يعني مثلا إذا عندكم number of, I don't know, boxes. زين. You can count how many number of boxes you have. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes, or number of cars, all right, or something like that. So their values, their data that you can actually count one by one, and you can have them, you do not usually have a decimal point with them. So you cannot say you have 0.2 cars, all right? You cannot say that. So these are discrete data, something that is easy to count. Continuous data is something usually you measure. So for discrete, we talk about counting, and for continuous, we talk about measuring, all right? Continuous data, like I said, is measuring. It could look something like I previously said, اللي هو الهايت. لأن الواحد ممكن يكون طوله 163.75 إنزين, and that is also not 100% accurate. أكيد بيكون في rounding error لأن الطول exactly يعني there is going to be millimeters that you're off with or something like that. So this is the type of data that is continuous, or weight, for example, all right, or even age. يعني يوم أنت تقول أنا عمري 20 سنة, it's not exactly 20 years. Every second your age is technically changing. So this is what is known as continuous data. All right. So these are the two main types of data. I'm not going to go too much into detail with this. And then we have the type of how data is presented. So there is something usually called as singular data, also known as ungrouped data. زين. وبعدين عندنا frequency or the grouped or range data. زين. What is meant by singular and group? All right, or singular and group data. Singular معناته إذا أنتم الحين قاعدين تتكلمون عن لون. Okay, for example, your data is blue. Okay, and then you have like 20 people like this color, for example, the frequency of it, which I will talk about in a bit. 20 people like the color blue exactly. So you have one single color exactly. And then you can say red. We have 70 people that like red. And then you have yellow, and etc. and etc. And then, so this is what is known as ungrouped data or singular data. يعني عندكم شيء معين, one specific thing, and you have a number of people liking that thing or prefer that thing or whatever, depending on the type of data you're gathering. What about grouped data? Grouped data, so you'll have your data here, and you'll have your frequency here, which I'll talk about in a bit. You will have a range for this data. So for example, you would say, let's say this data is about age. So you will say from 1 to 5 years old. All right. So this is basically a range. This is known as grouped data, as in the frequency. Let's say there are 30 people between 1 and 5 years old. فعندهم هم a specific age range. All right. There's a group of people you are targeting, not a specific person. And then you say from 6 to 30. and then you go from 30, for example, to 50. And there are 3 people here and maybe 7 people here. The idea is you have a range starting from 6, ending at 30. This is known as grouped data, all right? And usually there are different ways of presenting this data. This is known as a tabular way, يعني إن تحطونا في table, زين. Or sometimes you might see them in a pie chart, زين, with percentages. I know you've seen pie charts before. Or a bar chart, زين. Or there's a lot of other different charts as well. There is a histogram, cumulative frequency gram, and all of that, but I don't want to go too much into detail with those. All I want you guys to understand, and there's singular data where basically you have a single number of data, and then there is group data where you have a range. Okay, so we have talked about data, but we haven't talked about what frequency means. Frequency نفس ما أنا قلت لكم قبل شوي. إنزين, when we're talking about frequency, أول شيء في بالكم معناته how often, يعني إيش كثر. إنزين, مثلا if we have a data point, let's say like the color example blue. إنزين, الفريكونسي هني, so this is our data. الفريكونسي هني how often بما معناه depending on the type of data you want to know how many people مثلا like the color blue. All right, so that would be your frequency. Let's say 20. This is what is meant by frequency. Okay. For frequency, it can be either how many people or how many times it's occurring or how often it is occurring. يعني بما معناه you want to know العدد of how many times something is happening. All right, that is known as a frequency. All right, now let us move on to the measures of this data. So here, this was about gathering data. We are gaining data, gathering, putting them down in the table, either through a survey or whatever. But what can we do with this data? Let's take an example. Let's say we have a classroom, all right? A math class. A class of math. إنزين, وعندنا العلامات. We have the grades for each student. All right? One person got 20% on the midterm, another got 30% on the midterm, another got 10% on the midterm, and another got 90 on the midterm. إنزين, هاي مو بقطة. إنزين, so let's say, for example, these are the grades you got for a class. Okay, so this is data. We have here data. Okay, so there were 4 students and these were their grades. So how many students did we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so 4, usually given by n, is equal to 4. This is our sample. This is how many people we have taken basically from this classroom. All right, so we have 4 people. The first thing that you want to measure in this case is you want to measure the class average. All right, this is what they call the measure of central tendency. زين, again, I usually go a lot about theory and a lot of wording. هاي مو أشياء لازم تكونوا حافظينها, بس this is what it basically means. So there are 3 things you want to measure. It's usually the middle, right? So we're talking about the middle value, all right? And this is what we mean by central tendency. So there are different types of middle values. So the first one we know is mean, which I'm pretty sure most of you know, which is also known as the average. Okay. So for this, we want to find the class average. Okay. To find this class average, how do we do that? We are going to, so the mean, or sometimes it is given as x bar, is going to be equal to the summation of x divided by n. What does this equation mean? معناتها summation of x, this symbol just simply means adding, all right? This symbol means you're just going to add all the numbers. Do not get scared by it, do not get confused. All it means is you're adding up numbers. So معناتها we are going to be adding up our data, and then we're going to divide by our sample size. So in this case, the mean, or I should say the average or mean, same thing. يعني لو نبغى نطلع الكلاس average for these grades, it is going to be 20 plus 30 plus 10 plus 90. So we are summing up all our data values, and then we are going to divide by the number of values that we have, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So we put this into the calculator. So 20 plus 30 plus 10 plus 90 divided by 4. Class average is 37.5. So this is the average of the class. Okay? This is known also as the mean. So this is one of the measures of tendency, of central tendency, عشان we get a good idea of how many people basically يعني what is the average of everyone after all the grades have been calculated. The second one is known as median. Okay? So what is the median? Median is the value, all right, which is close to the middle. This isn't the same as the average. إنزين هو الvalue which is somewhere in the middle between all these values, but we're not talking about the average as in we're adding all of these up and then dividing by the total number. لا, we are looking for the number that is actually the location of it is in the middle of the set. What does this mean? If we take the same example again, let me actually draw it a bit more neatly. So if we take this example, all right, so we had 4 different values, all right, so this was math class, so the grades. We had 20, 30, 10, and 90. So 20, 30, 10, and 90. To find the median here, we are going to have to first order them. So from lowest to highest. Okay? How do we do that? It is going to be 10, that is our smallest, then 20, then 30, then 90. So the median value now is going to be the number that is exactly in the middle of all of these values. If you notice here, we have 2 on the left and 2 on the right. So we do not have an exact middle value. How do we find the median in this case? The median would be 20, the number before, plus the number after, and you will find the average of it. So it is going to be 50 divided by 2, which is 25. So this is our median number. Okay, that is the number that should be coming right in the middle. Another example, in this case, we had an even number of numbers. لا يعني the total sample was 4, n is equal to 4. When you have an even number, you're always going to be taking the number right before the middle and the number right after the middle, adding them up and dividing by 2 to find your median. What about in the case if we had odd values? So let us take the same exact example. And let's say there was another value, all right? Another person also got 10% at the exam, all right? Again, I'm مقطع. But let's say another person also got 10 from 100. So now if we want to order this, we have 10, then we have 10 again, because we have 2 values of 10. Then we have 20, then we have 30, then we have 90, okay? So now the median will be, again, median is just the middle number. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 numbers. So this is the middle number in between this and this. So our median in this case is 20. If you notice, once another person failed, the median has gotten lower, or gotten a very low grade, I should say. The median has gotten lower لأن النص الحين صار شوي صوب اليسار towards the lower number points. All right. So this is how you find the median. So this was our second thing. Again, we're just trying to measure the middle number. The last measure of central tendency اللي هو المود. إنزين شنو هو المود؟ المود الحين if we're looking at the same example, this is the easiest one. It is the highest frequency, or بما معناه the most repeated. زين يعني كم واحد جاب نفس العلامة أكثر شيء. If we're looking at the same example that we have over here, we have one person got 20, one person got 30, 2 people got 10, and one person got 90. So 10 is repeated twice. So the mode here is equal to 10. Okay? This is the mode because it is repeated 2 times. Okay? This is just the 3 measures. This is the most easiest, obviously. The mode is just the one that is repeated most. There's no need for any calculation. But let's say, what if I give you another example like this? And we had another extra grade added to it. That was also 90. So another student got 90. So in this case, our mode, we have two modes, or sometimes it's called bimodal. What does this mean? We have two modes. We have the first one, which is our 10 value, which is repeated twice, and the second one, which is our 90 value. So our mode is going to be 10 and 90. These are both going to be our modes. In the case where we had only these grades, we only had 4 and none of them was repeated. In this case, we have no mode. If there isn't any repeated values, معناته the system has no mode. Okay? It's very easy, very straightforward when it comes to this. I'm pretty sure most of you already know this, but it's a good refresher. Now, I don't want to focus on this type of data. Okay? I want to focus more on grouped data and when we have frequencies. Okay? What do I mean by that? So let's say now the same exact one over here. All right, the same exact example. Let us say that we want to, we also know how many students got each of these grades. For example, yani, okay? So now we are talking about what? We are talking about frequency. So we have a frequency here. So let's say 10 people got 20%, 5 people got 30%, 20 people got 10%, and 2 people got 90. All right? This is what is meant by frequency. يعني 10 جايبين 20%، 5 جايبين 30%، 20 جايبين 10%، و2 جايبين 90%. The first thing I want you guys to notice is what is our sample size? اللي هو بما معناه what is n equal to? N is going to be the addition of all these frequencies. زين لأن this is the number of students in the class. لا عندنا 10 جايبين هالعلامة، 5 جايبين هالعلامة، 20 جايبين هالعلامة، و2 جايبين هالعلامة. عشان نعرف عدد كل الطلبة اللي سووا الامتحان, we just have to add up all of these. So our N is going to be the summation of frequency. بما معناه we are adding up all of these. It is going to be 10 plus 5 plus 20, that's 35, 37. So our N, which is also equal to the sum of the frequency, يعني adding up the frequency, is equal to 37. Okay? So this is our first thing that we notice. Our frequency, it can give us the sample size اللي عندنا إياه هني. Okay? Now, what about if I wanted to find the mode over here? Or not the mode, sorry, the mean. Okay? What if I wanted to find the mean? You can no longer just add 20 plus 30 plus 10 plus 90 ويطلع لكم الجواب. لا. What do you need to do? I'm actually going to write it up here. Then, so we found out that this is the sample. So the easiest way to do this is you're going to add one more extra column. Then, and this is going to be the multiplication of your grade with the frequency that has happened. So it's going to be, let's say that this is our X and this is our F. Okay? So this is going to be X times F. So the first one is going to be 20 times 10, which is equal to 200. The second one is going to be 30 times 5, which is equal to 150. The next one is going to be 10 times 20, which is equal to 200. And the last one is 90 times 2, which is equal to 180. So this is the first step that you're going to do. You're going to multiply. So this way we know that how many people, we have 10 people that got 20. So we're going to be doing 20 plus 20 plus 20 10 times. That's the whole idea of it. And then we are going to sum up all of these X times F values. All right. Again, when you see this, remember, this is all this means is we are adding up. So adding. ففي هالحالة we are going to do 200 plus 150 plus 200 plus 180, which is going to give us 730. All right, so you can think of this as the total grade. When you're adding all the grades together, this is the total grade that you get. And this is the total students that you get. So now we can just apply the mean equation, but in this case, it will be x bar, which is sigma xf divided by sigma f. In other words, this is the same as saying sigma xf divided by our sample n, because remember, we found our n to be equal to 37, which is the same as this total frequency, or in other words, the total number of students in this class. تمام؟ ف x bar, which is our mean, is going to be equal to, this is the summation of x times f, which is 730, divided by, this is our n, which is 37. So now we can find the class average for these number of students with these grades by doing this equation, which is 19.73%. All right, or just 19.73. Okay, so this is the average, the mean, you could say, of this grouped data. All right. Obviously, here we are talking about discrete values. All right, we're going to look at continuous values in a bit as well. But for now, this is how you need to find the mean. If you want to find the mode, I don't think that is required of you, so I'm not going to go through it. It's very easy, but I'm not going to go through it. But I mean the median. But if you want to find the mode, remember, mode just basically means most repeating, or in other words, highest frequency. اللي هو 10, then it is repeated 20 times. So mode in this case will be 10, all right? Okay. But again, I don't think you guys need to know all of this. But this is the most important part, how to find your mean for when you have a frequency of a grouped data, all right? Now, this was pretty straightforward, all right, so far. I don't think anyone has any questions before I move on? I actually need to make sure everyone is understanding what I'm doing here. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna assume everyone is okay. If you have any questions, it's okay. You can type them in chat. I'll go through them one by one. Second order differential equation, inshallah, tomorrow I'll go over. We will look at that about how to get the mean in a bit. Can you repeat the frequency? The frequency is just how many students that you have in the class. يعني how many people get got a specific grade. إنزين يعني قاعدين نقول 10 أشخاص جايبين 20. So this is what is meant by frequency. قاعدين نقول 30 من الخمسة أشخاص جايبين 30%. This is what is meant by frequency. فإحنا لو نبغى نعرف the total frequency أو عدد كل الطلبة اللي مسوين الامتحان, we have to add up all the people that got grades. So this is what is meant by the total frequency, or also known as our sample. تمام? And for the mean, what we have to do is we have to multiply our data point, which is 20, يعني العلامة 20, by the frequency, and you will do this for all your data points, and then you will add them all together. Once you add them all together, you can look at x bar, or the mean. You can find it by using this simple equation. اللي هو you're dividing the total grades that you have summed up by the total frequency that you have, or the total number of students in the class. إنزين. An easier way for you guys to just look at this. هاي كأني أنا قاعد أكتب 20 20 20 20 10 مرات. إنزين 20 20. I'm writing it 10 times. All right, and then 30, I'm writing it 50 times. 30 30, or 5 times, I mean 30 30. This is what is meant by frequency. يعني كم مرة متكرر هذا الرقم. يعني هل قد ناس جايبين علامة 30 30 30. Okay, I will talk about standard deviation in a bit. Well, mode, remember, mode is just the most repeated number. If you look here, the most repeated grade was, for example, 10 and 90. So the modes were 10 and 90. So if you look at it from this perspective اللي هني, احنا قلنا العشر رقم 10 متكرر 20 مرة. متكرر 20 مرة. فبما معناه هو أكثر واحد متكرر. that is why it is going to be our mode, the number 10. Not the frequency. احنا ما يهمنا how many times متكرر. أهم شيء يكون أكثر شيء متكرر. وبعدين the actual data is going to be your mode. زين. Median here, you don't have to worry about it. If you want to find the median for something like this, write down all the numbers and the number of frequencies that you have it. يعني just like I did here, and write it in order and look for the middle number. All right. It's going to be a smaller table here. أنا قاعد جاي برقام يعني من مخي, but you can do it that way. Okay. But I haven't seen any question like that so far. If we do, I will cover it. Don't worry. أهم شيء, I don't think they'll ask for mode either. All you need to make sure you know is how I found the mean. The mean is what is important from this, because we are also going to be using it now when we are talking about standard deviation. Just 1 minute. All right. So the standard deviation. What is meant by standard deviation? So here we were measuring, again, the mean to find basically the average of the sample. Okay. So once we find the average, what can we do with this average? What is the point of finding the average when it comes to statistics? You want to see how much these numbers are varying off الافريج. يعني بما معناه شو بعد هالرقم من الافريج فاليو اللي عندنا اياه كلهم. بما معناه الافريج مال how far away they are from the actual average of the entire class. إنزين. The way to do that is by using something called the standard deviation. إنزين. يعني بما معناه we want to know how much the numbers are deviating from your mean. All right, your mean that we have calculated here to be 19.73. And this is just a very simple equation that you apply, all right, which is the summation of x minus x bar squared divided by n, all right, which is your total frequency. N meaning total frequency in the case of group data, or just simply n in the case of when you have just singular data over here that you can see. Okay, so let us look at both examples. So let us first look at when we had these grades over here. Okay, or actually let's do it the simpler one here. And then so standard deviation of, let's say we have these grades 20, 30, 10, 90. We know our n here is equal to 4. صح؟ لأن عندنا 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And we found our mean earlier. How did we do that? So we'll call these grades x. We found the sum of x, اللي هو يعني we just added them all up, which is 150. And then to find the mean, we just divided the sum of x by n, which is 150 divided by 4. So x bar, or the mean we got, was 150 divided by 4. Okay, so far I didn't do anything new. This is what we just did previously. I'm just reiterating. Tamam? So standard deviation is sometimes, or it's given by the symbol sigma. Okay, so sigma is equal to this. This is known as the standard deviation. So if we look at this equation, what do we need? We have our x, which is our data point, but we need to subtract the mean from it. So the first thing you will do in this case is you're going to extend your table like this, and you're going to calculate x minus x bar for each and every one of your data points. Why? Because at the end, we are going to need to sum it all up, or in other words, add it all up. Tamam? So if we look at it here, first number is 20 minus, what is our x bar? 37.5. Second number is 30 minus 37.5. Third number is 10 minus 37.5. Last number is 90 minus 37.5. Okay, this is what you're going to be doing for your first column. Okay, and then you're going to put each and one of them in the calculator. المفروض directly you guys just calculate it and put the actual final value for each. But just so you understand where I'm getting these values, so the first one is negative 17.5, the second one is negative 7.5, the third one is negative 27.5, and the last one is 52.5. Okay, and now we need to sum, before summing them up, we need to square all these numbers. So now we need to do x minus x bar all squared. Why? Because here the summation is actually of the square, not of just x minus x bar. So we are going to do minus 17.5 squared, minus 7.5 squared, minus 27.5 squared, and 52.5 squared. Okay? Once you do that, now we can finally sum them all up, because now if you notice from summation for all of this, which is similar to this equation. This is the whole idea. So we find the sum of x minus x bar squared, which is equal to adding all of these values together. All right. So if I just get my calculator, we're going to do minus 17.5 squared plus minus 7.5 squared plus minus 27.5 squared plus 52.5 squared. I will get 3875. All right. So this is the, once you get this value, خلاص, now you can find your standard deviation, because we have already determined our n is equal to 4. Now to find standard deviation, you just apply the equation. So sigma, let me actually copy paste this equation again. So we have sigma, which is your standard deviation, is equal to the square root of sigma, or summation of x minus x bar squared divided by n. بما معنى this value over here is simply just this value. Okay, this is what this value is. So it's going to be equal to, and this value n, we found it earlier to be 4. Okay, from here, the total number of numbers we have. So this is going to be the square root of 3875 divided by our n, which is 4. So sigma is equal to the square root of 3875 divided by 4, which is equal to 31.125. All right. And this is basically the standard deviation, or how much deviation these grades have from the class average that we have calculated. All right. You don't need to know the meaning of it and go too much into detail. All you need to know is how to actually do these calculations and find your standard deviation. Now, this was in the case when we have grades as single point datas and we didn't have any frequencies. So what if we had something like this table where we had a frequency? Okay, let me copy paste this down here. So let's say we have this table, which we looked at earlier. All right. So up to this point, you know how we got all of this, and then we calculated the mean as well. So x bar is going to be equal to sigma xf divided by sigma f, which is equal to 730 divided by 37, which is equal to 370 divided by 37. It was 19 point, or 730, sorry, 19.73. Okay, this was the value that we got earlier. Again, nothing new, just finding the average. But why am I finding this average again? So we are looking at the standard deviation. I'm going to make this table a little bit smaller over here. Okay. Now, we need to find standard deviation, but in this case, we don't have discrete data anymore. We have group data. We have different frequencies. Okay. So when we have different frequencies, the only thing that is going to change now is our standard deviation formula, sigma, or standard deviation, which is equal to sigma, ignore my terrible handwriting, which is equal to sigma, equal to the square root of the summation of f times x minus x bar squared divided by sigma f. or in other words, you could say that this is the square root of sigma f x minus x bar squared divided by n, because sigma f is basically our n value, which is here. N is equal to sigma f, which is equal to 37. So sigma f we already have found, which is just 37. And from the previous equation here, we found our x minus x bar. However, the x bar here is now different, okay? So now our x bar is different because we found a new average because we have different frequencies. So we are going to do the exact same table as we did before with one small difference. So now we are going to have x minus x bar, and then we're going to have x minus x bar squared. And then we're going to have one more table, or one more column, I should say, for f times x minus x bar squared. All right? This is the difference. So x minus x bar, you already know from previously how we did it. It's just we take the value x. And so for the first one, I'm just going to write it down. 20 minus 19.73, which is going to be equal to a number. So 20 minus 19.73 is going to give us 0.27. And we'll do the same for the rest. So 30 minus 19.73 is going to be 10.27. And then 10 minus 19.73 is negative 9.73. And then 90 minus 19.73, this is going to be 70.27. All right? So this was the first thing. Now we are going to square the numbers that we got here. So it's going to be 0.27 squared. All right. And we're going to do the same for the rest. So which is equal to 0.0729. The next one is 10.27 squared, which is equal to 105.47. And then we're going to do negative 9.73 squared, which is 94.67. And then 70.27 squared, which is 4,937.87. Okay. My recommendation in the exam is once you find your x minus x bar, directly square it in the calculator and fill out the next column. Okay. And you can also multiply it directly by the frequency next to find it. Yani go row by row so that you don't have to rewrite numbers over and over again. You can just do answer squared and then answer times and all of that. Okay. So now we have completed the second one. The last thing we need to do is multiply it by the frequency f, which is here. So it is going to be 10 times 0.0729, which is equal to, and the same we will do for the rest. So 10 times 0.0729, it's going to be 0.729. And then you have 30 times, 5 times 105.47. It is going to be 527.35. Then you have 20 times 94.67, which is 1893.4. And the last one is 2 times 4937.87, which is equal to 9875.74. And now you are going to do the summation of all of these. Just so you guys see this clearly, what I did is this 10, I multiplied with this value. All right, this is where the 10 and 0.0729 came from. All right, same thing for this one. I multiplied 5 with this value, the frequency with this value. This is how I got 527.35. Right, and I did the same for the rest. And now we add them all up. So 0.729 plus 527.35 plus 1893.4 plus 9875.74 is equal to 12297.22. All right. And that's it. Now we can plug it in back to the equation. So this value that we got over here, this is equal to this top value over here. And the frequency, n, or the total frequency, is the same as the frequency over here that we found early on. So our sigma is going to be equal to the square root of 12297.22 divided by 37. 7. So our sigma is going to be equal to 18.23. And this is our standard deviation. And that's pretty much it for any question that you might get. This is how you would be solving it for discrete and group data. So this case, when we have group data, meaning we have frequencies, and this is discrete when we do not have any frequencies, we have raw data, in other words. Tamam? And that's all it is for statistics. Anyone has any questions? You can make one column straight. زين تقدرون تسوون one column straight بس يمكن تخربطون في الأرقام. يعني you can do it from the beginning and you say, all right, so we need f x minus x bar squared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my f, it is 10, times x, which is 20, minus x bar, which is 19.73, and this is squared, okay? And then you can put this number directly in the last column and just solve. This is correct, but there's always room for error when you do this. لأن عندكم وايد أرقام. Forgot the negative. No, I did not forget the negative here. Look, it's a good thing you pointed this out. All right. So whoever asked if you can, Ryan, yes, you can do this. This is completely fine. All right. The people saying that I forgot the negative. Remember here that this is in between brackets, right? Even if it wasn't, when you are squaring a number, the negative will be going away. Make sure that you write it in the calculator with the brackets, the same way I wrote it here. Tamam? So do not put this as a negative value. This is actually a very important point. Be careful with your signs, all right? يعني حتى هني I had a lot of negative values, but they will all become positive once you square them, all right? لأن remember, minus 17.5 squared is equal to minus 17.5 times minus 17.5. معناته the negative value is going to cancel with each other. So you're going to have a positive number of whatever it is. All right. So make sure you be careful with the signs. In the calculator, if you write it like this, it will keep the negative sign because it is considering it this way in the calculator. Okay, so it's keeping the negative outside the bracket. So make sure in the calculator you are putting the brackets just the exact same way I wrote it here. Tamam? Let's see if anyone has any other questions. Don't worry, we're gonna go to probability soon, Faisal, and we're gonna solve that question. Okay. Any questions about standard deviation mode, median? I'm pretty sure it's very straightforward. Clear? Do you want me to solve more questions from these? Because I didn't even refer to يعني طلعت أرقام من مخي. I didn't even look at the questions that were provided in the worksheets. Inshallah, the last session that we have, I will be solving the mock test. Don't worry. All right. I'm just looking over the questions. Just trying to see if there's something that might be confusing. It is very straightforward. Yeah, يعني كل شيء I already have covered. I didn't see any range questions. I mean, I do see them in the worksheet, but I didn't see them in the lecture notes, so I don't think they will come. Otherwise, they would have solved it in the lecture notes. Either way, for now, I believe just practice on these. It is way more than enough. Make sure that you are taking care of your signs. Make sure you know how to find your mean. This is the most important thing. If you cannot find your mean then you're going to have a very hard time with the statistics part. All right. Let us take a 5-minute break before we start probability. عشان بعدين we just go through with probability. So we'll be back at 8. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break. And then we will start with the topic of probability and all of that. All right. if you want us to talk about range data, just for a minute, I will talk about it. So if you have, for example, a range, like let's say from 3 less than x, less than equal to x less than 7, all you're going to have to do here is your new x value is going to be equal to 7 plus 3 divided by 2, and then you're going to be applying all the same steps that we did before. So for example, if this is the range that you have, 7 plus 3 over 2, that's 10 over 2, which is 5. So your x value now is 5 for this class, okay? This is the value you're going to be using instead of the class. That's the only difference, okay? Um, After the break, I will talk about it a bit more, just a bit more before we start probability. Someone wanted extra time for break, ما أعرف ليش, بس break until يلا 9:05. We will have more than enough time to complete probability. قصدي 8:05. I don't know why I wrote 9:05. 8:05. I'm sorry, 8:05. All right, break until 8:05. حمسوا الجماعة نشوفوا break ساعة. Again, everyone, today I am only going to cover till probability. Inshallah, tomorrow, if you want higher order differential equations and all of that, tomorrow I'll be covering all of it. And for the mock test, after tomorrow, I will be going over it, which is Monday, the night of the exam. All right? All right, let us continue. Before I move on to probability, so someone asked, what if you had a range? Okay, so let's say you had something like 10 less than equal to x less than equal to 20. And then you had 20, this should be less than, not less than equal to. Less than equal to x less than equal to 30. And going on and forth, and you have a frequency like 5 and 7. So this is our data, and this is our frequency. If you had a range, you're going to apply the exact same thing that we did here. All the solving is going to be the exact same thing. You're just going to add one step. You're going to find the midpoint, x midpoint, all right? And this is going to be your x value, all right? So basically this x midpoint is going to replace the values here. And to do that, you're going to just do 20 plus 10. You're going to take the values over here, 20 and 10, all right? Add them and divide by 2, and that is going to be your midpoint, which is 25. I haven't seen any question like this, or sorry, it's 15. I haven't seen any question like this, but just in case, you're going to find your midpoint. Same thing for the next one. You're going to do 30 plus 20, divide by 2, which is 25. And this is going to be your x value now. Yani the value that we are using here for grades, which was x. Instead of that, this is going to be your x value, and then the solving is going to be the exact same method. All right? Yeah, exactly. So someone actually sent a picture. So this question over here, it says the frequency distribution for the values of resistance of 48 resistors. So you know from the question, you don't even have to calculate. This is your sigma F, which is equal to N, which is 48. This is the total number of resistors. And you're going to be adding up all these values. Remember, this is frequency, and this is your data. All right? What you're going to do here is you're going to take the midpoint for this value. So it's going to be 20.5 plus 20.9 divided by 2, which is 20.7. And then you're going to do the same for each and every one of them. And then you're going to solve for the standard deviation, the exact same method that we did early on. All right. Now, so, and it's not the median, it's the average, by the way. This is called the average, not the median. Let us move on to probability. Okay. So we talked about statistics. Statistics was just analyzing data. Probability is about finding out the chance of something that will happen. So probability basically means either something will happen or not happen. And the percentage of something happening can be 100% or it can be 0%. The same thing with whether or not it will happen. It can either be 0% or 100%. Or a value in between. In other words, the probability is going to be either 1, 0, or a number in between. So in other words, probability has to be between 1 and 0 at all times. 1 meaning 100% and 0 meaning 0%. Okay? So the first thing that we usually talk about is a coin, flipping a coin. Flipping a coin. A coin has two sides. It has a head and it has a tail. زين؟ احنا نقول له درهم يعني درهم ولا دلة هني ما اعرف شو تقولون له يعني بس اللي هو heads and tails. Alright? So there's a chance that it could either be heads. What is the chance? It is a 50% chance that it will be a head or a 50% chance that it will be a tail. How did I know that it is a 50% chance? Okay, so the first thing, we look at our sample. What can it be? It can be either head or it can be tail. So what is the total numbers of the total possible sample size? It is 2. So the total possibility, the total probability is going to be 2. Like you can either get heads or tails. How many times do we have head? We have it 1 time. And how many times we have tail? We also have it 1 time. So the probability of heads is going to be 1 divided by the total possible occurrences, which is 2. And the probability of tails is 1 over the total possible probabilities, which is also 2. 1 over 2 and 1 over 2, this is basically 0.5, and this is 0.5, or in percentage terms, it is 50%. So now the probability here, if you want to calculate it, it is simply just, this is the method that you will do, which is, so the probability of an event, we'll call it A, is going to be the probability, or I should say, the occurrence of A, بما معناه the number of times A will occur over the total occurrence. Okay, اللي هو يعني usually N. Okay, so how many times will A happen? How many times will A occur in your set? Divided by the total possibilities اللي بيستوي في الset. Okay, if you notice, when you add these values up here, this has to always be equal to 1. لأن either this will happen or this will happen. So one of them happening will always, there will always be a chance of one of them happening. فمعناته when you're adding probabilities of a specific occurrence, the total possibilities لازم they all be equal to 1. Okay? What about if we had 2 coins, for example? So let's say we had 2 coins that are flipped. زين? So what are the possibilities that we have now? It can either be heads and heads, or it could be heads and tails, or it could be tails and heads, or it could be tails and tails. بما معناه يعني الحين احنا عندنا 2 coins. Okay, أول coin حصلنا head وثاني coin حصلنا head. The other chance is أول coin نحصل head وثاني coin نحصل tails. ثالث يعني possibility بيكون أول واحد نحصل tails وثاني واحد نحصل heads. واخر واحد اثنيناتهم يكونون tails. تمام. So what does this mean? This means now we have a total of 4 possibilities that can occur. So this is our n value, which is 4. Hello. Now what if my question is, what is the chance of getting heads? At least 1 heads, I should say. So what is the chance of getting at least 1 heads? So you're going to be looking at where you are getting at least 1 head. So the first one is here you have 2 heads, so you have at least 1 head. Here you have heads, and here you have heads. How many times? This is 1, 2, 3. So the probability will be 3 divided by 4, which is equal to 0.75, also known as 75% chance of getting heads at least 1 time. What about if I want to get 2 heads? 2 heads. So we're going to be looking at this again. We have 1 over here, and that's it. This is the only occurrence where you are getting 2 heads. So this is going to be 1 divided by our total possibilities, which is 4. So it is a 0.25 chance or a 25% chance. And this is the basics of probability. So you have the probability of an event occurring, all right? And you have the total number of events that will occur. Events بما معناه يعني اللي ممكن يصير، إنزين؟ فكل اللي ممكن يصير بيكون تحت، وفرصة هالشيء المعين يصير بيكون فوق عشان يطلعون البروبابيلتي المعين in the most basic way. إنزين؟ This is also known as the expectation of the event occurring. Let us talk about expectation a bit. So usually, let's say we have a probability of something happening, or let's say out of 100 students, all right, 100 students, 30 students passed. Okay, so 30 students passed out of 100 students. Let me actually change the color. This is our 100 students, which is our n, and this is the number of students that passed. Okay, so we'll call this our p, our probability p. So p, or our event, sorry, let's call it A actually, so there's no confusion. So the probability of A is going to be equal to P of A is A occurring over our N, or in other words, 30 out of 100 students. So it is 0.3 or 30% of students. إنزين. So what if I am expecting for the same university expectation of 100,000 students based on this data, based on this probability? So we know that the probability of passing is 30%. Out of 100,000 students, or let's say out of 150,000 students, how many students are expected to pass? So الحين عندنا احنا probability of passing, which is P of A, which is equal to 0.3 or 30%. This is the probability of passing we know at this university. So for 150,000 students, this is our new N, all right? This is our new N. We can simply say that P of A times N, the new N, is going to be equal to the number of students that actually are passing. So it is going to be 0.3 times 150,000, which is equal to 150,000 times 0.3, 45,000 students are passing. Again, this is based on the probability that we calculated for 100 students from this small sample size, and we are projecting, or we are estimating, or بما معناه expecting how many students will pass if we have this many students. Okay, so expectation is just in other words the average occurrence of an event, يعني how often it will occur. تمام. Now, when we're talking about events, when we're talking about probability and we're talking about events, في شيء يسمونه dependency اللي هو بما معناه whether or not an event is dependent on another one. يعني let's look at a simple example over here. عندنا a bucket زين داخله عندنا ريزسترات عندنا 1 2 3 red resistors and we have 2 blue resistors زين. So the total size here, the total N is equal to 5 and then a total of 5 resistors. All right, 3 red, 2 blue. Okay. So what is the possibility of getting a red resistor? So the probability of a red resistor is going to be, how many red resistors do we have? 3. What is our total? 5. So we are going to have a 0.6% or 60% chance of getting a red resistor. What about the blue resistor? So P of blue is going to be 2 over 5, which is equal to 0.4. So the probability of getting a blue resistor, we have 2 resistors out of 5. We are going to have this probability. Okay. Now, this is a basic example if we're just talking about one. And we're picking one resistor. What if I say we want to pick 2 resistors? So let's say, what is the probability of picking 2 red resistors without, or actually let's start with replacement. زين شو معناته كلمة with replacement؟ معناته الحين عندنا هذا الباكت, all right, of resistors. Let's take it back down here. We already have found the probability of red was 0.6 and the probability of blue is 0.4. حلو. فالحين احنا نبغى ناخذ 1 red resistor نطلعه من البوكس. Okay, this is the first thing, the first step. And we want to pick 2 resistors لا. So this is first choice. What is the probability of our first choice? Simple, it is P of R. زين. So it is P of R, which is 0.6 or a 60% chance. Now for our second choice, صح احنا شلينا هذا الريزستر طلعناه برا, ولكن we said with replacement. What does this mean? It means that this resistor that we removed, we have put it back inside the box again. And this is what is meant by with replacement. So now our second choice, again, our probability did not change. So we have 3 red resistors a total of 5 resistors, so the probability is the same probability we calculated earlier, which is 60%. So how can we find out the 2 red resistors? How can we find the total probability? In this case, you will say that probability of 2 red, for example, is going to be equal to probability of red for the first choice times the probability of red for the second choice. So this is your first choice, and this is your second choice. This equation is known as the multiplication equation or the AND equation. Sometimes you'll see that. يعني بما معناه, why do we say AND? So we say the first and second resistor are red. All right. So this is going to be multiplication. You will be multiplying your first choice and your second choice to find your total probability, which is 0.6 times 0.6 equal to 0.36 or 36% chance. Okay, this is known as an independent event. Independent. When we say with replacement, معناته independent event. شو قصدهم ب independent event؟ معناته ان التأثير مال أول اختيار ما يأثر على ثاني اختيار. The first choice that you are making does not have any effect on the second choice that you will make. The probabilities will remain the same no matter what because they are independent of each other. Okay? So this is the first case with replacement. What if I ask the same exact question? Right, so let me copy paste this down here. What if I say without 2 red resistors without replacement? This is known as a dependent event. بما معناه الchoice الأولي بيأثر على الchoice الثاني. How? So this was our first choice. Okay? If we look at our second choice, now we have already removed a red resistor outside. We no longer have this red resistor inside. زين؟ فالحين لو نبغى نختار ريزستر ثاني لازم ناخذ ريزستر ثاني من 2. فnow our probability has changed. It is no longer the same probability for the second choice. ليش؟ في البداية مثل ما we calculated earlier, the probability of red is equal to 3 over the total, which is 5, which is 0.6. Now the probability of red conditional blue, which I will talk about now, زين, is equal to 3 became, we have how many resistors inside? We have 2 resistors only. What is the total number of resistors inside? It is 4 now instead of 3. فقلوا عدد الرد resistors وقلوا عدد الريزسترات كلها اللي في الشنطة أو الصندوق or whatever. So this is also known as conditional probability. Conditional probability meaning إن the probability of this event occurring يتأثر على حسب تأثيرات الأول event that happens. يعني this choice will have an effect on our second choice. Therefore, we have a condition. يعني a conditional probability. تمام? So this is now a 50% chance, which makes sense. لا عندنا 2 red and 2 blue. So it's a 50% chance of you picking red. So now when I'm trying to find the total probability of 2 red, it is going to be the probability of red times the probability of red conditional. In other words, this is going to be the P of R, which is 0.6 times 0.5. No, it's no longer 0.6 times 0.6. So this is going to be 0.30 or a 30% chance. This is known again as a dependent event, or usually they say it as without replacement. Okay? If you notice here, our probability في البداية كان عندنا 36% chance لأن قاعدين نرجع الأحمر داخل لأن now we have more red to choose from. In this case here, we have already took the red out, so there is less red to choose from. So our probability is decreasing. مثل ما تشوفون هني كان 0.6% أو 60% استوى 0.5 أو 50%. 0.5%. This is what is meant by a dependent event, and this is what is meant by a conditional probability, a probability that is dependent أو يعني يتأثر من another event. Okay? Let's look at the same example, but for something else. Let us look at the same example, okay? But the question is now different. Let's say, what is the probability of finding one red or one blue? All right, so we have one choice, but you either get one red or one blue. So if we're looking at this, here we are talking about one choice only, or one case. We know that the probability of red is going to be equal to 0.6. And we know the probability of blue is equal to 0.4. And let's add an extra resistor and make it purple and change the probabilities actually. So let's say we have also a purple resistor. So the probability of the purple is also now available. So how are we going to calculate the probabilities? We have to calculate it all over again because now our sample n is no longer 5, it is 6. So we have a 6 number of resistors in total. So the probability of red is 3/6, which is 0.5. The probability of blue is 2/6, which is 1/3 or 0.33. And the probability of purple is 1/6, which is 0.1/6 0.شو نسيت والله 0.167. Okay? So now we have different probabilities, and the question says, what is the chance or the probability of getting one red or one blue? بما معناه we can either get red or blue, and that will be sufficient. In this case, we are only simply going to add our probabilities together. So the probability of red plus the probability of blue, which is 0.5 plus 0.33, which is equal to 0.633. 0.833. All right. So 0.83. Okay. Now, so again, what is the chance of getting one red or one blue? All you have to do is just add up the probabilities. Another way of solving this question, let me introduce another concept, is by finding الحين يوم احنا قاعدين نقول red or blue بما معناه نبغى أي شيء داخل هني other than purple. So one red or blue simply means not purple. All right? So not purple. So the probability of not purple is given by this symbol over here. So this is purple. But we are talking about not purple. It is given by this symbol. And this is equal to 1 minus the probability of purple occurring. All right. So when we're talking about not a color or not a probability, معناته we are going to do 1 minus that probability. If you notice here, we found that our probability of purple is 0.167. So the probability of not purple, all right, is going to be equal to 1 minus 0.167, and you notice that this is also going to be equal to the same number because this is the same exact solving. تمام? So when we're talking about not معناتها we are just simply adding subtracting the probability that will occur from 1. يعني واحد ناقص whatever the probability of that thing occurring. تمام؟ It's logical يعني إذا الشيء يصير شو الشانس منه ما يصير؟ يعني إذا أنا قلت لكم أنا عندي 25% chance أنجح، شو الشانس اللي أفشل فيه؟ 1 minus 0.25 اللي هو 75% or 0.75. This is where the not rule comes from. So both of these rules can be applied in this case. Okay, and this is all you need to know about probability before I talk about permutations and combinations, of course. بس من ناحية probability, you just need to understand what I have done here, and you can apply this to any question that you'll be given. The difficulty is understanding what the question wants. This is where people usually make their mistakes. They don't know what the question wants. They don't know when to use multiplication, when they use addition, when they use the not, how many numbers they need to multiply with each other, and all of that. And this will come with practice. All right. So let me solve a few questions about this, but before I move on, let me see if anyone has any questions about this. Okay, clear. Yes, yes. Combination and permutation, I'll talk about it towards the end. It's very straightforward. Who is C and the P. But I want to solve some questions regarding this. And I don't want to solve the easy ones. I'm looking for the more difficult ones that students were asking me for test 2 as well. Let me see here. There was a question that was repeated by a lot of students. A lot of students used to ask me it. Let me try to find it. Okay, this was one of the questions. Okay. I know it's difficult to read, but this is the quality that they provided, unfortunately. So I'll read it for you. There are 50 components. Okay, so 50 components in a batch of 4 which are defective. Given that two components are randomly chosen without replacement. So it says without replacement. And that the first component chosen is good. So the first chosen is good. What is the probability that the second component is bad or defective? So probability of second bad. I'm just going to write it like that. Okay. So in other words, now I remove this. We have a total of 50 components. All right. So this is our n is equal to 50. 4 are defective. Okay. So we know that 4 of them are defective. So let's call this event B. All right. So A is good and B is bad or defective. It's the same thing. Okay, just to simplify it a bit. So A is for good and B is for bad. And it is mentioned that we have no replacement. Okay, that two components were chosen, without replacement. And the first one chosen was a good component, and the second one was a bad component. All right, or they want us to find the probability that the second one is bad, basically. So first things first, you need to understand what the question means. So they told you that 4 is defective. What does this mean? This means that the probability of event B, which is bad, is 4 over 50, which is equal to 2 over 25, or in other words, it is 0.08. And this is your bad, the probability of bad. Since here we only have good and bad, the probability of A, يعني if it's good, it's basically not bad. So we can say the probability of A is equal to the probability of not B. Being good means it's not bad. So in other words, it is 1 minus the probability of B. And we have already found the probability of B, so the probability of A is going to be equal to 1 minus 0.08, which is equal to 0.92. Okay, so see from the question, you need to understand how to find out the probabilities and to understand what they mean by defective and all of the rest that we will look at right now. Okay, so now, so we have our good and we have our bad. So the first one chosen is good. So our first choice is good, meaning the probability is of A, which is equal to 0.92, right? This was our first choice, which was good. And remember that it is without replacement. Without replacement means this is a dependent event. All right? This basically means it is a dependent event. معناته when we choose one, the probability of the second one is going to change. It is no longer going to stay the same. Okay? So, how are we going to find the probability of the second one? The second is going to be the probability of B conditional A. In other words, after A has already been happening. So A, we have already took one good component less. So it's one good component has been already removed from the system. Remember, we have a total of 50 components, all right? So 50, we're going to remove one good from it, and we're going to remain with 49 components. So this is our new number, all right? And we have now, we have 4 bad components. Since we didn't remove any of the bad components, we only removed the good component, معناته we still have 4 bad components inside. So this is going to be 4 over 49. And this is the probability of the second. Remember, they didn't say they want, the question didn't specify that they want the probability of getting the first good component and the second. No, they mentioned that the first one has already been chosen as good. They want to find out the probability that the second will be bad. So this will be your final answer, which is 4 divided by 49. Okay? That is basically it. Another reoccurring question, yes, the one in chat, that's the one that I saw a lot of students send me, which was this one. Okay. Again, the whole trick when it comes to probability is understanding what the question wants. This is the most difficult part. The actual calculations are very easy, but you need to understand what the question wants. So always follow the method of writing down everything and understanding what you are given from the question. So let's look at this part. The probability of event A happening, so probability of A is equal to 3 over 5. This is the first part. And the probability of B happening, so B is 2 over 3. Calculate the probabilities of both A and B happening. What does this mean? This means that A and B are both happening, all right? What does and mean? This is what I mean. You need to look at the question. So this was our B happening is 2 over 3. So the first thing you're going to look at is the probability of B and A and B happening. معناته you have P of A and B. This is for part A. In other words, this basically means it is the P of A times the P of B. Okay? Therefore, all you have to do now is just plug in the numbers. 3 over 5 times 2 over 3. And the probability is going to be 2 over 5 or 0.4 or 40% chance of happening. And this is how you solve for part A. Part B says only event A happening, i.e. event A happening and event B not happening. Again, what does it say? If event A is happening and event B is not happening, all right? And event B is not happening. So what do we want for part B? We want P of A happening and B not happening. So we need the probability of B prime, okay? So to find B prime, before we solve, P of B prime or P of B naught is equal to 1 minus P of B, which is equal to 1 minus 2 over 3, which is equal to 1 over 3. So this is the probability of B not happening. So once we have already done this, now we can just apply the same equation. So it's P of A times P of B naught, which is equal to P of A is 3 over 5 times P of B naught is 1 over 3. So it is 1 over 5 or 0.2 or 20% chance. Okay? Let's look at part C. Part C says only event B happening. So only, it's very important to know that only B is happening, meaning we want the same thing as part B, but in this case for the event of B. So in other words, we want P of B, only B happening means and not A happening. يوم يقولون لكم only one thing happens معناته انه ما بس هالشيء يصير والثاني ما يصير. يعني this will happen and that will not happen. This is what is meant by only. So again, it's going to be P of B. What is our B? P of B is, P of B times P of A prime. Remember our A in the question, the probability of A. P of A is equal to 3 over 5. So P of not A is going to be equal to 1 minus 3 over 5, which is equal to 2 over 5. And then we have P of B, which is equal to 2 over 3. Okay? And now we just plug in. So 2 over 3 times 2 over 5, which is equal to 4 over 15. So this is the probability of that happening. 4 over 15, which is 0.26, yes, 0.267 or 26.7%. Okay? Now let's look at the final part. The final part says step by step, either A or B or A and B happening. So step by step. So P of either A or B or A and B happening. This is what we want. Remember that or, so and is multiplication, and is multiplication, or is addition. So this can be rewritten as P of A. Remember, again, either A happening or B happening. This basically means only A is happening because they are saying either A or B. They're not saying E and B are occurring at the same time. So what we mean by that is A and B not plus. So this is for this first part because we want either A, meaning either only A happening, plus for the or, and then P of B and A not happening. Okay, so this is for the second part. Then, or P of A and B. يعني بما معناه يبون either A happens انه بس يعني يقولوا مثلا ما اعرف لو تشوفون مباريات بس مباراة بين فرق زين ريال مدريد وبرشلونة زين قاعدين يلعبون وبعدين عندك مان سيتي وارسنال قاعدين يلعبون alright شنو الشانس ان سيتي يفوز وشنو الشانس ان مدريد يفوز وشنو الشانس ان مدريد وسيتي يفوزون ضد ارسنال وبرشلونه فما يخصهم في بعض الاي والبي بس ما يصير انت تقول شو الفرصه ان سيتي يفوز والارسنال يفوز لان قاعدين يلعبون ضد بعض فوات ذات مينز از السيتي قاعد يفوز والارسنال قاعد يخسر نفس الشيء هني مدريد قاعد يفوز والسيتي قاعد سوري والبرشلونة قاعدة تخسر، او اثنيناتهم مدريد وارسنال او سيتي قاعدين يفوزون. هذه هي الفكرة. تمام. So this is why we had to break these down into A and B prime. Okay, and the last part is very direct. So now we have already found all of these. P of A and B prime, we have found it to be 1 over 3 plus P of B and A prime اللي هو part any B and A prime, we found it to be 4 over 15 plus P of A and B is simply the first one that we found here, which is 2 over 5. So the probability is going to be 1 over 3 plus 4 over 15 plus 2 over 5. دقيقة بس. 1 over 3 plus 4 over 15 plus 2 over 5. ليش ما كلها صح؟ ما يستوي يكون 1. 2 over 5 هني اوكي. part B كان sorry, it's not 1 over 3, it's 1 over 5. My bad. It's 1 over 5. This is 1 over 5. Okay, so it is 1 over 5 plus 4 over 5 or 4 over 15 plus 2 over 5, which is going to give us 13 over 15. Tamam? So this is how you would calculate the probability for this part. Any questions about this? Then, do you want me to talk about the not again? Again, if you have something happening, let's say the probability of A is happening, and let's say it is 60% chance or 0.6. زين يعني I am saying that there's a chance of me, for example, there's a 60% chance of me to win 1 million dinar. Okay, 60% chance. Oh, very good odds. 60% chance ان انا افوز مليون دينار. However, what will be the chance of me not winning that? So it's not going to be 60, it's going to be whatever is remaining, which is 40%. Or in other words, you can say it is P of me not winning is 1 minus the chance of me winning. Or you can look at it in this way if we're talking in percentages. This is 60%, right? So it's going to be 100% minus 60%, which is equal to 40%. اللي هو 40% chance. يعني if I'm 60% chance of winning, معناته I have a 40% chance of losing. This is what is meant by not. So 1 minus P of A, 1 minus 0.6, which is equal to 0.4 or 40%. And then, 1 minus 0.6, this is for the PA naught. In this question, the reason I was using A naught is because they were mentioning only an event happening. They even clarified that what they mean by only an event happening means event A is happening and the other event is not happening. Tamam? So this is why we are using the A naught and the B naught in this question. When we're talking about only, we mean only that specific event will occur and the other event will not occur. That is why we are saying B will occur and the other event will not occur. تمام؟ ودورتموند الليلة بيفوزون بس أقول لكم الحين. Of course, as soon as I finish the notes, I will send it to you guys all. And then let's look at another question a lot of you have been asking. أنا بنطق في الجامعة الأسبوع الجاي. And then let me look for one that a lot of you have been asking about. Easy. Okay, let's look at this one. I remember some students used to ask me about this. Actually, before going on with this, I have to explain one more concept that I didn't go over, which is P for permutation and C for combination. What does this mean? شو معناته permutation and combination? Permutation and combination, there are just ways of selecting things when you are from a random point of view. So let's say استخدمنا example حق الشباب، خلينا نستخدم example حق البنات. Tomorrow there is a wedding, okay? Well, tomorrow الخطوبة وبعد باكر wedding, for example. All right? So the first day is the engagement, and then you have the wedding. تمام? And you have 3 dresses to choose from. You have a red dress, you have a purple dress, and you have a green dress. Okay? So you want to choose from these 3 different wedding dresses. تمام؟ not wedding dresses, but dresses. Okay, المهم. So you have a red dress, a purple dress, and a green dress. So how many dresses you have in total? You have 3 dresses. And in your case, you don't care about wearing, يعني, you just want to wear one for each event. So how many options do you have? How many choices do you have? You can either wear red for the engagement and then purple for the wedding. لأن طبعا البنات ما بيلبسون نفس الثياب مرتين. Green for the engagement and then purple for the wedding. Or you can have red for the engagement and green for the wedding. Or you can have purple, سوينا purple already لا هذا green for the engagement and red for the wedding. Or you could have purple for the engagement and red for the wedding. Or you can have, to make this a bit smaller, the last option you can choose is you can wear purple for the engagement and then green for the wedding. They're all different options, لا؟ يعني you can either go with red and purple, or green and then purple, or red and then green, or then green and then red, or then purple and then red, or purple and green. Okay? This, if you notice here, this is what we mean by order is important. Order here matters. لأن في فرق إذا لبسنا الأحمر حق الانجيجمنت وبعدين الأخضر حق الويدنج، or لبسته green حق الانجيجمنت والأحمر حق الويدنج. All right? So they're 2 different things. So the order of this matters. It matters if you chose the red first and then the green, or the green first or the red بعدين. When order matters, you use something called permutation. إنزين؟ permutation اللي هو letter P. إنزين؟ And then you have something called your N and your R. Your N is the total choices that you have, which we have already determined here. Our N is how many dresses we have. We have 3 dresses. So this is our N is equal to 3 dresses. Our R, R يكون how many options we have. يعني هني في هالحالة عندنا engagement and wedding. So we have 2 options, or 2 nights you are going to be wearing the dress. 2 choices that you will be making out of all the available choices. Okay? And that's it. So now, if we count here how many chance or how many different variations we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there are 6 different ways you guys can be wearing the dresses, 6 different color schemes. زين? NPR is going to do this exact same thing with you only having your N and your R. So from the very beginning, you know you have 3 dresses you need to wear. You know you have 2 days you're going to be wearing a dress on each day. So you're just going to put N, P, R, and in this case it's 3, P, 2, which is equal to 6. And it's going to give you the number of choices that you have. Tamam? This is what is meant by permutation. Order is important. This is the most important thing. The order is important. What about combination? So we said we had red, we had purple, and we had green. Okay? So we have engagement and wedding. So these are our choices. We have, again, our N is equal to 3, our R is equal to 2. Nothing has changed. All right? Now, in combination, combination, which is NCR, order does not matter. يعني بما معناه you don't care which one you're wearing when, you just want to know the colors that you will be choosing for the weekend of the wedding, for example. فمثلا you have to travel, all right, and you need to select dresses. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you're gonna wear when. مو مهم اذا انا بلبس الاحمر اول يوم او الاخضر ثاني يوم او whatever، انت عندك بس مكان انك تشيلين فستانين وياك. فاول واحد ممكن يكون احمر واخضر. زين. It doesn't matter the order, so it can be red, green, or green and red. The order does not matter. The other choice is going to be أحمر, red, and purple. And the last choice is going to be green and purple. So in other words, you only have two dresses that you can choose, and the order doesn't matter. لأنه مو مهم كيف الترتيب اللي بتحطونه في الشنطة مثلا. It will be the only two dresses you can take. So you only have two choices. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing it for the engagement or the wedding. Yani you can flip these and it is the exact same meaning. All right. It is the amount of dresses that you are taking. So in this case, you are going to be using NCR, which is 3C2. And this, if you notice, we have 1, 2, 3. And if you put it also in the calculator, you will get 3. Okay. This is the whole idea of getting the of knowing when to use P and when to use C. Okay. Let us do just a couple of examples of this so you guys just see how you would solve using P and C. Where are the questions for P and C? Okay, so let us look at two questions and then we will conclude. No worries, if you guys have questions, we have a lot more sessions coming up. I will be answering your questions in the future sessions, but I want to make sure that all the concepts are covered in this session. So let's look at this question. Calculate the number of combinations there are. No, this one's too easy. It is literally telling you to use combinations. Let us look at this question. In how many ways can a team of 6 be picked from 10 possible players? All right. What does this mean? The first thing you need to determine is your N and your R. All right. So let's look at how many ways a team of 6 can be picked from 10 possible players. So our total number of choices that we can pick from is 10. And R is 6. Remember that your R will always be smaller than your N. If you have a value of R larger, your combination is going to give you an error in the calculator. بيكون غلط. لأن you have, يعني this is your total number of choices. You cannot choose more than what is available. تمام؟ يعني ما تقدر تروح مطعم يقول عندنا احنا 5 شاورما تقول له اوكي انا ابغى 7 انواع شاورما، ما عندهم، مو متوفر. Same exact idea. زين. So you have to make sure that your R is less than your N all the time. This can be a helpful trick for you guys to know what will be your R and what will be your N. So now the second part is we need to know if order matters. Is order important here? Let's read the question and understand what it wants. In how many ways can a team of 6 be picked? So you want a team of 6 players. زين؟ مو مهم البوزيشن مالهم، مو مهم who you choose first, who you choose last. You just need 6 players. زين؟ It doesn't matter if this player was moved here, if this player was moved here. They didn't mention anything about the position of these players or the location, so you can move them around. In other words, order does not matter. So we will be using NCR. So this will be N, which is 10, combination of 6, and that will be 210 different ways you can select 6 players from 10. Okay, that is basically how it is. Let's look at one more question before we conclude. I know the time is up, but let us do one more question عشان أختم هذا الشيء, and tomorrow we can start ordinary differential equations. This is a good question. I remember the boys also asked me this question before. 6 numbers between 1 and 49 are chosen when playing the national lottery. All right. So again, you need to make sure you know how to read and how to understand what the question wants from you. Okay. So here, how many numbers do we have? What is our n? We have 6 numbers between 1 and 49. Okay. The 6 is our r. R is equal to 6. And between 1 and 49, these are the choices you can have for these 6 numbers. So n is equal to 49 different numbers. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. Insane. So in other words, it's as if you have 6 digits. Insane. And this number can be any number between 1 to 49, all of them. It can be any number between 1 and 49. Okay? This is what it means. Yani you have all the choices from 1 to 49 that can be picked here. An example would be if you have 5, 17, 25, 39, 4, 20. All right, this is one of the possible outcomes because all these numbers are between 1 and 49. Then determine the probability of winning the top prize. What is winning the top prize? Winning the top prize, they mentioned, is 6 correct numbers. So that means that you have to have the correct number in all of these. It doesn't matter if the correct number, let's say these are your correct numbers, all right? Let's say these were the correct numbers given. It doesn't matter the location of 5 if it was going here and the 17 was here because they did not mention anything about the order. They just said the numbers have to be correct. يعني لو عندك 5 anywhere here, that is a correct number. If you have 25 anywhere here, that is a correct number. Okay? So this will be the correct number, or the choice of the correct number is gonna be 49 C6 because order not important. Again, I will repeat. In the question, it says 6 correct numbers. It didn't say 6 correct numbers in a specific order. It just said that it has to be a correct number. For this 17 could be at the end, it could be in the middle, it could be somewhere else, and it will be a correct number. So the order of how these are selected does not matter. That is why we are using 49C6. But we did not finish the question. The question didn't say what are the chances of winning numbers or how many winning numbers can you choose. It said determine the probability of winning the top prize if 10 tickets were purchased. All right. So if 10 tickets were purchased and 6 different numbers were chosen at each ticket. يعني حط أرقام كلها غير عن بعض. زين يعني he never repeated the same number twice, obviously, because he wants the biggest chance of him winning. Okay, so if he purchased this first number, now we basically have 6 tickets of these. Okay, so first thing is we have our choice, which is 49C6. We have how many tickets? We have 10 tickets. Let us look at the probability of winning one ticket. One ticket, okay? For one ticket, the probability of winning is the correct number. If we do 49C6, then 49C6, this is equal to 49C6, a huge number of 139838816. معناتها there is a total possible combinations. All the possible number combinations is 139838816 number of combinations, or in other words, this is our nu n when it comes to probability. Yani this is the sample space. This is the total possible numbers that you can have inside here when order is not important. Okay? One ticket or one number is the winning number. So you only have one choice. So the probability of winning is equal to, or the event of winning, I should say, winning is 1. Only one ticket is the winning ticket between all of these tickets. So what is the probability of winning? It is equal to winning, which is 1 over 139838816. This is the probability of winning for one ticket. Okay, so for one ticket, this is the probability of winning. So what if we had 10 tickets? All you are going to do is remember expectations. You are expected to win 10 times the probability of winning one ticket, which is 10 over 139838816, which is going to be a very small number. All right. So again, I repeat, order here is not important because of the location. That's why we used C. We found out what 49C6 is, which is equal to this value over here. All right, why did we use 49? Because we have 1 and 49 as our n. Why did we use 6? Because we have 6 different possible numbers. They wanted us to find the probability. So this is the number of possible numbers we have, and only one of them tickets or one of the possibilities or the arrangements is the winning one. So the probability of winning is getting that one number between all these possible arrangements. And then, so this is the probability of winning one ticket. So if we are purchasing 10 different tickets with 10 different numbers, the probability of winning will be 10 times the number of, or the probability of winning one ticket. All right. And that is basically it for probability and statistics. I know you